Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of the 10,000 Stitches podcast, a weekly chit chat all about the joys of sock knitting. My name is Andy, and thanks for joining me today to talk about socks. I lost my train of thought there. I was like, I'm forgetting to do something. There's something I'm supposed to insert here, but no, I'm pretty sure it was the introduction. Anyway, like I said, my name is Andy. Where you can find me, I have the YouTube channel 10,000 Stitches Podcast. You can also find me on my blog, The Purl Bug, or you can find me on most social media as Purlbug, P-U-R-L-B-U-G. So that's Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry. Although Twitter, not so much, but mostly Instagram and Ravelry. You can find me there. We also have a group for this podcast on Ravelry, the 10,000 Stitches podcast group or whatever. And then in terms of show notes, that will depend on where it is that you are watching this. So if you're watching this on YouTube, then there will be a link down in the box below to the blog post that goes with this episode. And then all of the important patterns, other podcasts that I mention, anything like that will get linked in that blog post. There's also going to be a link in that description box to the Ravelry group if you want to go straight there. Like I said, if you're watching on the blog, everything will be linked down below. Similarly, if you're watching on Ravelry, in the thread for this episode, everything will be linked underneath the video. If you want to contact me, you can do so on Instagram. You can feel free to send me a message. You can send me a message on Ravelry. You can leave a comment on the YouTube video or the blog post for this episode. Or if you have like a longer message or whatever, there's also a contact page on the blog. It's, I think, on the far upper right, and of course I have no idea if I'm actually pointing in that direction because everything gets mirrored. But anyway, it's on the upper right of like the little bar at the top of the blog. There's a contact page, and that you can fill out the form there, and that sends it directly to my email. It doesn't get stored anywhere else. It sends directly to my email, and then I can respond to you. Or it also has my mailing address if you want to send me a letter, because I enjoy getting letters, and I will write back. So that's all of that, I think. So the plan for today, I have my notes that I'm looking at. So intros are done. I have a finished object to talk about. I have 2 works in progress to talk about. Then I'll talk about the next 2 patterns that I have coming up. We'll talk about the Knitalong, and then some other like stuff for the group on Ravelry. And then talk a little bit about buying yarn that's on sale, because I kind of had a little bit of a conundrum about that recently. And my question of the week, and then we'll get to personal stuff at the end if you don't care about that stuff. So, okay, let's move on to finished objects, shall we? So my finished object for this week is my blueberry waffle socks that I showed last week. I think I might have had one of them done. Oh, so that I don't forget, I am currently recording on Sunday, January 17th, and this episode will go live on Wednesday, January 20th. This episode will go live. So it's a couple days ahead of time. And another thing to note, it is currently snowing outside. This is not the first snow that I've seen here in Virginia. Like there was one day where there was like some light little flurries coming down, but this is the first appreciable snow. So, but it's still not really accumulating because it's been so warm here lately. But anyway, it's snowing. Beside the point. So, finished object, blueberry waffle socks. I want to say that I had one done when I filmed last, but I can't say for sure. But either way, they're both done now. Yay, blueberry waffle socks. So these I made for myself because it had been quite a while since I'd made any socks for myself, and I was feeling selfish. So they are made with Patons Croy in the gray marl. I think this is the gray marl color, and it's kind of this like nice like gray. It makes me think of like boot socks, it's like a tough, wearing gray color. And then the toes are done in Patons Croy Route 66. So I kind of like that. I mean, I like doing contrasting heels, but that's kind of a pain with like, weaving in ends. But I really enjoy doing contrasting toes because like nobody sees the toes of your socks except you. And then, you have little contrasting toes. So these have contrasting toes. Fish Lips Kiss heel, like I said, blueberry waffle pattern. Yeah, pretty cool. It's the second pair of blueberry waffle socks that I've knit, and I really enjoy knitting blueberry waffle socks. And this is actually the first pair of socks that I've knit for myself with the Fish Lips Kiss heel. Did I say that right? I don't know. I was listening, Wesley just got in the shower, so if you hear any noises, that's what that is. But I was listening to that as I was talking. Anyway, highly professional right here. Anyway, this is the first pair of socks I've knit for myself with the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I'm so glad that I have finally shown these because now I can put them on my feet. I actually was finished up with it basically on Thursday. I finished up with the second one like Thursday night, except for the bind off. And it was getting kind of late. Yeah. It was getting kind of late, and I was like, I could bind these off or I could wait. And then I realized, no, don't buy them off because then I will not be able to resist wearing them on Friday. And if I wear them Friday, then I don't have time to wash and have them dry before I want to show them on Sunday. So I purposely like saved myself from myself on Thursday night and I didn't bind them off. So then I bound them off Friday night, I think, or like something like that because I knew that I could resist wearing them yesterday. So now I'm actually going to put them on my feet right now because I've been wearing my slippers and my feet were getting cold. I'm super excited to wear these. And so you can see, perfect fit, woot, yay. So yeah, so I did these using the Fish Lips Kiss heel and the doing toe up 64 stitches, size 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle. And I did them using the cardboard foot cutout. So using my cardboard foot cutout. And it works great. Like I've done that now for that pair of socks that I knit for Wesley, and I did that now for this pair of socks that I knit for myself, and it works great. Like using the cardboard foot cutout and your little heel line, like she outlines in that pattern, it works great. So I'm really enjoying that, and I'm interested to see kind of how these socks feel throughout the duration of the day, like whether they seem to keep fitting well or not. But yeah, it's great. And yeah, I guess that's it for finished objects. So works in progress. Like I said, I have 2 works in progress, which is not normal for me. But one of them, the first one is the socks for my father that have been in progress for a while. So like I said, this is the finished sock. This is the one that's done. And these are knit using Plymouth Yarn Diversity in the Plantation colorway. Which is a non-wool sock yarn. It's like 93% acrylic, 7% elastic or something. So it's got a little bit of stretch to it. And I've actually really enjoyed it. It's a nice yarn to work with. And this is a 72 stitch sock. It's just plain vanilla, Fish Lips Kiss heel. And I've been knitting it on size 0s, which is why it's been taking so long. Not so much because they knit so tight, but because like they're so small that they actually make my hands kind of hurt. So I can't knit on it for very long. But when I recorded on Tuesday night, I think I had basically just gotten through the toe increases on this one, so I was like somewhere in the middle of this tan stripe, and so now I've gotten partway through the foot. So I'm just kind of I'm trying to work a little bit on it like multiple times a day. So I work a little bit on my other sock and I work a little bit on this one. But this is also teaching me why I don't like having 2 socks going at once, because the more boring one will be the one that I don't want to do. But anyway, the one thing I'm kind of annoyed about, so this one, I talked about this before, something happened here, I don't know what, like, it doesn't seem like they were dyed very carefully, like this yarn was dyed very carefully, so something got screwed up here. And so I was hoping that it was just white, where it was supposed to be this like darker brown color, and that they would still match up. Because there was also like a knot somewhere in this white section on this one. It does not look like they're going to match up, because if you look at them side by side, so the toes and all match perfectly. If I can get pretty much perfectly, if I can get them lined up. And then, and then you have this white section, but I just started into the tan section on this stripe, and you can see that it's past where this tan section started. So I'm kind of annoyed because I'm pretty sure they're not going to match up, and I don't think my dad will really care. But like, I'm annoyed because I went through the effort to try and make them match, and because of the yarn not being dyed right, now they're not going to match. So that's kind of annoying, but like I said, I don't think he's going to care. I mentioned this before, these are going to be a birthday present for him, and his birthday is in a week now, so I don't think these are going to be done on time, but I'll send him a card, and I'll send him a picture of how far that I am, and you know, I'm sure he'll be happy to get them whenever it is that they're done. But I know my yarn's coming unwound. But yeah, so that's my first work in progress. It's progressing slowly, but it is progressing. And then my second work in progress is another pair of socks for myself. And I'll explain why I'm knitting these for myself, because I wasn't necessarily planning on making them for myself, but I am. So my next pair is the Melisandre socks, which are by, Melisandre by Pearlescent. And I am knitting these out of Cascade Heritage sock yarn in the pumpkin colorway. And I had the label somewhere. The label is, oh, here we go. Here's the label. And this is the color 5646, which is the pumpkin color. And so something to note. So this yarn comes in a hank, right? It comes in like a kind of a normal hank, and then you have to wind it up. I don't have a Swifter ball winder, and I've tried to wind hanks before into balls, and I've had it dissolve into a horrible, horrible mess. But this one, I found it only took me about 20 minutes to wind it up by hand. So basically, like what I did was I untwisted the hank so that it was just a big loop, and then I untied the little ends. And basically what I did was I just kind of propped my knees up, and I set it around my knees, and I just slowly wound it up, going around and around and around. And at some points I put it around my feet because it was just easier that way. It just kind of depended. But it only took me about 20 minutes. I just sat and watched a couple of YouTube videos while I did it. And, you know, if I were to do multiple balls at once, yes, I'd want a Swift and ball winder. But for only doing one, maybe once a week, it wasn't bad. And it definitely made me more assured in my decision that I don't need a Swift and ball winder to do what it is that I'm doing. Not just because of the cost, but because there's also cost of space associated with those things. And I've said this before, we live in a small apartment. I don't have space to be storing extra stuff. And I certainly can't have it sitting out all the time, so I'd have to be storing it somewhere. And then of course there's also some time associated with the fact that, okay, well I want to wind things up, so now I have to take that out of the closet, let's say, take it into wherever I can hook it up to the table. I have to like get it all set up, and then I do it, and then I have to take it all down, put it away. I'm pretty sure at that point I'm not saving myself any time or effort by doing it using that. So moral of the story is, if you're only winding one ball at a time, even of sock yarn, you can do it by hand, and it's not necessarily going to take you any longer than it does with a Swift and ball winder. You just have to be patient. That's, I think, where I've always like been foiled before, is that I want to go at my speed, but really you have to go at the yarn speed. You have to go slowly, you have to be patient, you have to just keep doing it slowly, and it goes faster than you think. So yeah, but anyway, this is the Melisandre sock, which right now looks kind of goofy because it's those ribbed patterns will kind of tend to pull themselves in and look really skinny and goofy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my little foot cutout so it'll stretch it out a little bit. So this is how it looks so far. This is how the pattern looks. Let me see if I can catch some light on that. It's super bright. Like the yarn is really bright, so I think it's confusing the camera. But you can see it's kind of this cool like ribbing. I think it's supposed to look like flames pattern, which I really like. It's really fun, and you can see I'm almost to the heel, so I will probably get through the heel of this sock today, I think. But I'm in my 4th repeat of the pattern so far, and I started this yesterday morning. And this is one of those patterns that is like super popcorny, where like you're just like, okay, just one more row, just one more row, just one more row. And so well, I'm not sure that it necessarily takes any less time to like knit, this far than it would with any other sock. It feels like it takes less time, and I always enjoy patterns like that because it's like, oh, look, I got super far and it didn't feel like it was super tedious. So I really enjoy those kinds of patterns. This pattern I really like because basically every other row is a rest row. Like you're not just plain knitting every other row, but every other row you're not worrying about decreasing or increasing. You're just knitting the knit stitches and purling the purl stitches. So it doesn't require a lot of thought. I don't have to look at the pattern on those rows. I just look at my knitting and I say, oh, this is a purl stitch, so I'll purl it. Which is good because I feel like the other rows take a lot more thought than I've been having to use recently. Like I'm used to kind of being able to like read my knitting, and this one I just can't quite do that yet. Like kind of once I get to a given row, I look at I have the chart printed out, and like I'll look at the chart and I'll say, oh, okay, yeah, this row, so I kind of know what to do. But I can't just look at my knitting and know what to do without having to look at the chart, if that makes sense. So it's taking a little bit more brain power than I've been using for things like the blueberry waffle socks, where it's really easy to just look at my knitting and read where I am. But I'm really enjoying it. Like, it's really nice and fun. So yes, I am like 5 rows into my 4th pattern repeat. The way that I've been keeping track of where I am, and this is a free pattern, so I don't feel too bad about showing part of the chart, but really if you want it, go look at her, because there's more to it than just the chart. But what I've been doing is I've just been making little dots along the side to like show when I've completed a row, and that way I can look at it and just easily see where it is that I am, because I'm horrible with like row counters. So I've just been keeping a pen and the chart nearby, so that whenever I finish a row, I just make a little dot and that's it. So yeah, so that's how that's coming. I'm really enjoying it, really loving it. So the reason that I'm making these socks for myself, I maybe would not have necessarily made them for myself, but I saw on Mina, the knitting expat, on her podcast the one for this past week. And again, thanks for the shout out, Mina, I appreciate it. She was talking about doing Fish Lips Kiss heels entirely in garter stitch instead of, knitting on the right side, purling on the wrong side. And that she had heard that it increases kind of the durability of the heel. And especially after, if you've been watching a couple episodes now, you've seen that with the last pair of socks that I knit for Wesley, the only pair of socks I've knit for Wesley, I did the Fish Lips Kiss heel on them, and he loves them and they fit great, but they are not wearing well. So I was like, okay, I need to try this, because if that means that I can make him socks without having to do like a heel flap and gusset construction, great. So I decided that the first pair of socks that I do like that should be for myself, so that I have, I can see kind of the progression of how they're wearing, and if they don't fit well, then I'm the only one who suffers. I'm not giving them to like someone else and being like, here's a sock that I don't know how this is gonna fit or wear. So that I'm gonna be doing the Fish Lips Kiss heel like that in garter stitch on this pair, and I'll see how it goes. Yeah, I guess we'll see. So that's works in progress. And oh my god, sit up. I have like the worst posture sometimes, because I have such a long torso, so like I just tend to like slouch, and I just have to like sit up. Anyway, okay, so upcoming projects. So last week I mentioned that one of my upcoming pairs is the basket weave rib, and I'm trying to bring it up on my phone so I can tell you who did it. So the basket weave rib socks by Sarah Ronchetti, and it's kind of a, I wonder if I can maybe merp. Nah. It's a rib pattern. It's like I think it's like a 4-row repeat kind of rib pattern. It's cool. And so I was asking last week, like, which yarn should I make these out of? Because I was between the Patton's Croy Casual Colors, which is kind of like blues and browns, and then Cascade Heritage in lilac. And I kind of have decided to go with the lilac. Someone said that it would show off the stitch pattern better, which I agree with, so I'm going to do the lilac for those. In which case, I don't think these are going to be for me. I think I'll maybe make these for someone else. I don't know. I might make these for my friend that I made the Forest for the Trees socks for, because I think she'll like that. So these will probably be for her, and I'll make them for her and all of that. And then the next pair after that coming up is the Twisted Socks by Jody Gordon Lucas. And these ones look like they might be the most challenging in terms of like construction for this kind of set, this set of ribbed socks, because they kind of, I think they're knit top down, and they're heel flap and gusset. I'll probably do that because the pattern is written specifically for that. And so you get to that point, and then kind of like when you pick up your stitches for the gusset, you have these, it kind of like swirls around the top of your foot. The ribbing kind of swirls around the top of your foot to like your arch, and then it continues straight down towards your toes. So they look really interesting and cool, and I think that I'm going to make those with I was prepared enough to get my yarn out of the closet, but I was not prepared enough to like pull out the yarn that I wanted to use. Anyway, I think I'm gonna make those with this green yarn. This green yarn, which is kind of a like a dark yellow green. I'm gonna make them with those, and I think I'm gonna make that for my mom because she loves green. She wanted a pair of green socks, and I might hang on to them until her birthday. Her birthday's in March, so that'll be a long time to hang on to them, but it means that I don't have to like try and, you know, fit it in with one of the patterns that I will be making then. So we'll see. I might get impatient and just give them to her early. I don't know. But anyway, so that's the next 2 pairs of socks that are coming up for me and the yarn that I will be using for them. So yeah, that's what's upcoming. And like I said, I will link those patterns down below in the notes for this episode. So, all right, let's talk about the knit-along. I will not, you know, okay, I will kind of rehash the knit-along because I know there's a lot of new viewers or new people who came along after last week. So I'm running a knit-along in the group on Ravelry. And so basically the way this is working is I'm dividing this project up of knitting 50 pairs of socks in 2016 into kind of 6 chunks. So each chunk is looking at a specific, I want to say construction technique, but a specific aspect of sock knitting, I guess. So the first chunk, which is January and February, is looking at ribbed sock patterns. So this is any sort of pattern, this is how I'm defining it, any sort of pattern where you make a design alternating knit and purl stitches. So it can be as basic as like a 2x2 rib, or something like the blueberry waffle socks where you're doing 2x2 rib interspersed with rows of just knitting, or like the Melisandre socks where, you know, it's sort of almost a lace pattern, but it's really not a lace pattern because it's not open. It's, you know, ribbed kind of lace pattern like that. So, so that's what the first 2 months are, and then the next 2 months, and then the other things I'm looking at are going to be cables, lace, color works like stranded knitting, unique construction techniques, and then yarn enhancing patterns. So for each of those things, I'll be giving 2 months because 12 divides by 6 into 2-month increments. So, and for each of those 2-month increments, I'll be running a knit along based on that specific theme. So this first one for January and February is for ribbed socks. And I will link in the notes to the chatter thread, which has the rules in it. I won't rehash the rules because I think those are easier if you just go read them. But basically, you know, the quick and dirty is that it has to be an adult sock. It has to be a ribbed pattern, and it can be as basic as 2x2 rib, but it has to be kind of an all-over pattern. It can't just be the cuff. Has to be an adult sock, has to be a ribbed pattern, has to be knit out of sock yarn. So nothing heavier than Patton's Croy. And like I said, I'll link down below. You can go take a look at the full rules. And in the chatter thread, I also have links to all of the socks that I am knitting for this time. And I'll do that every time. Like, I'll link to all the patterns that I'm using, and if I'm using a lot of paid patterns, I'll link to other free patterns that would also work. Just if you need inspiration, like if you're like, I don't necessarily know what to do for ribbed socks other than a 2x2 rib, I'll link to other things so that you can kind of get an idea of what I'm defining as that. And if you have other socks that you want to look at, put a link in the thread and we'll see if it fits or not. But yeah, so as of last night when I was making my notes, and I don't think it's changed this morning, we had 3 entries in the FO thread. So yay, that's super exciting, and I'm sure there'll be more coming. I mean, it's only 2 weeks in, really. I've only completed 2 pairs of socks, so but yeah, so that's super exciting. Yay. And there will be prizes for the knit along. I just haven't gotten them yet. I want to kind of, at least at first, pick prizes that maybe are from like local dyers here in Virginia to kind of, you know, because that's where I live. So I might as well kind of showcase that. Or maybe Minnesota, because I'm from Minnesota. So we'll see. But I do have a couple of dyers from here in Virginia that I've already kind of picked out on Etsy, and I have kind of like put them in my list so that when I am ready to buy the prizes, I can do that. I just haven't yet because I'm waiting, I think, to get another paycheck. So probably towards the end of January, I'll order the prizes. So yeah. if you have any questions about that, feel free to like ask in the chatter thread or anything like that. But yeah, like I said, I'll link to there. Other knit-alongs that I know are going on, I don't know of very many. I just know that Mina from the Knitting Expat is also doing a January sockathon. So like that's an open sock knit-along for the month of January. And her rules are pretty similar to mine. No works in progress. Has to be an adult sock, nothing heavier than Patton's Croy. But hers, like, you can knit vanilla socks for hers. So I'll make sure to link to her group I think I'll link to her group and her thread for the January Sockathon. So you can also enter them in there as well. And she has a thread on her group that is like, where she's compiling a bunch of knit along stuff for 2016. So check that out too. I'm not that ambitious, but she has that. So check that out too if you want to see if there's any other knit alongs that you can do. And then general like group stuff. So for my group, something I never realized to say before is you can feel free to start threads in the group if you want. Like if you maybe found a cool pattern or if you're a designer and you want to like showcase a pattern, you know, you can feel free to do that. Or if you know of like a sale that's going on somewhere and you want to start a thread about it to let people know, feel free to do that. If you're a designer and you want to start a thread for a specific pattern that you've made or are releasing, or if you're looking for test knitters, whatever, I don't have a problem with you if you do that, but if it's a paid pattern, I'd like it if you'd let me know ahead of time. Just because I want to make sure that I am okay with that first, because while it's not necessarily 100% my group, you know, it's for, you know, anyone who wants to be a part of it. At the same time, like, I feel like it's kind of representing me, and I don't necessarily want something out there that I don't necessarily agree with. So feel free to do it, but just let me know ahead of time and make sure that I'm okay with it. Also, I reserve every right to take down any threads that people start that I don't agree with. So, or that become out of date and useless. I'll take them down. So don't be offended. It's just me being a moderator, and that's just how it's going to be. But yeah, feel free to do that. I might start a thread where people can like put in different places to buy yarn online, because like I've said before, I have no idea where to buy yarn online, and I've been getting a lot of great suggestions. So I should start a thread for that too. But anyway, feel free to start your own threads, but don't be offended if I take them down, if they are not relevant or if I don't agree with them, whatever. Because I'm going to be a dictator like that. So yeah, oh, and then another thing about the group. So I have an intro thread. I do read all the intros on there. I just don't respond to all of them because I just don't have time. So I do appreciate it when you guys introduce yourself, and I'm sure everyone else appreciates that too. So please keep doing that. Just don't be offended if you don't get a response, because otherwise, like, the thread will just like get huge and long and tough to wade through. So, but know that I am reading them. I'm sure other people are reading them, and I love seeing where everyone's from. I just don't have time to respond to all of them. So yeah. So that's it for the group stuff. So then yeah, so I mentioned I'm wearing skinny jeans and it's hard to like sit comfortably in them. Anyway, I mentioned that I had a little bit of a conundrum about yarn sales. So right now KnitPicks has a sale going on where all of their stroll yarn is 20% off, I think. And Craftsy also has a sale right now, at least on the Cascade Heritage yarn, where it's all like 35% off, which makes it decently cheap. Like, you know, that's a pretty good deal. Like, the Cascade yarn is like $7 a hank, and Stroll yarn is like $3.75 for a 50-gram ball. So I mean, that's a good sale. And so I was kind of like debating. I was like, do I like take advantage of that right now? You know, not so much because I don't have plenty of yarn for a while. Like, I still have a giant bag full of yarn. I have more than enough yarn to get me through at least the next 2 months. So, you know, it's not that. But it's that looking ahead, I have these colorwork socks that I'm planning on doing, and some of them are knee-high socks. And, you know, with like stranded colorwork, you're basically using not quite twice as much yarn, but basically twice as much yarn. And especially for those knee-high socks, like, that winds up being a lot of yarn that's going to be used. And so I was like, well, if I have to buy that much yarn, maybe it makes more sense to do it while it's on sale, you know, and then I'll just store it. So I was kind of like hemming and hawing, and I asked Wesley what he thought, and he was like, well, are you gonna buy it anyway? And I was like, yeah. But I've decided not to, mostly just because, there will be other sales. And I think that's an important thing always to remember, is that there will be other sales. Like with my colorwork socks, the earliest I'd be starting those is July. And I could even push it off until September if I really wanted to. So, between now and then, that's a lot of time for there to be other sales. I'm sure that there will be other sales. There'll be like 4th of July sales or Memorial Day sales, something. So there will be other sales. And probably by that time, I won't be charging it to my credit card then. I'll have saved up enough money so that I can just go ahead and buy it. So there's that responsible spending. And I don't have room to store that much yarn. Like if I'm looking at buying enough yarn for, I think 7 pairs of socks, 7 pairs of colorwork socks. So that's at least, like if I'm talking about like 50-gram balls, that's 4 50-gram balls per pair of socks. So that becomes 20 balls of yarn. Well, basically the place where I have to store my yarn is this duffel bag, which I've shown before, and it's still pretty full. I don't have room to stuff 20 balls of yarn into there. So that would just be irresponsible of me to buy a bunch of yarn that I don't have anywhere to store, and then it makes me uncomfortable because it's being stored who knows where. It makes Wesley uncomfortable because he has to live here too. So at the end of the day, I just decided that, it's not worth it. There will be other sales. I'll buy it later. And I think that's an important thing to realize. Sales happen because businesses want you to buy now. They want you to get into this mindset that, oh my gosh, it's a limited time thing. I have to do it now or else I'll miss out. You won't. Unless you need it like next week. Like if this was something to where I didn't already have this stash of yarn and I was like, I'm going to need yarn really soon anyway, of course, take advantage of it. But if it's like, oh, well, I need this 6 months from now, there will be other sales. It will happen again. And this is something, I've learned with knitting. I've also learned it with like my other hobby, like my fountain pen hobby and stuff. Like retailers are not on your side. They're on their own side. They're trying to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. Like a business has to make money. But just bear that in mind whenever like you're getting caught in that rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, I have to buy this now or else the deal will be gone. It'll come back. It always does. You'll be fine. Just a little bit of thought, for today. So yeah, so that's that. And then my question of the week for you guys is, what do you do for entertainment when you're knitting? So like for me, I tend to like to watch like YouTube videos or something. Something I should mention, we don't have a television here. Wesley and I don't have a TV. Like we physically don't have a TV in our apartment. We have had TVs before, like we had a TV when we were living in Wisconsin, but like we didn't have any channels on it. I think we had an antenna, but it didn't pick things up very well. But like we don't have cable, we don't have satellite. We do have Netflix. So like when we were in Wisconsin, we would watch Netflix on a little Apple TV box. Here we watch Netflix on our computers, but like we don't have TV channels. And so, here it's like I will tend to watch YouTube or I might watch Netflix or something, but that's kind of what I do for entertainment when I'm knitting because I can't read and knit at the same time. I really wish I could, but I can't. And sometimes I'll listen to audiobooks, but I'm not always very good about that because I like something that's kind of a little bit shorter. Like with audiobooks, I tend to not be able to commit to an entire 10-hour book, even though I can break it up. I tend to like lose the plot line somewhere in the middle and I have a hard time like committing to that much time versus like a 40-minute episode of a TV show. Well, I can sit there for that long and I can keep with the plot line for that long and then I'm done, So what do you guys watch? I like to watch YouTube videos. I like to watch, series on Netflix. I don't think I'm watching anything right now. We were watching The Great British Baking Show on Netflix, which was great. I loved it. I so wish there was more than one season of that on Netflix because that was awesome. Although it did make me a little bit sad because I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm gluten intolerant. And so, watching them make breads and cakes and pies and pastries, like episode after episode, I was like, oh. So there was that. But that was a show that was really fun to watch. But yeah, what do you guys watch? Is there a series on Netflix that you are currently in the middle of that I should totally check out? Or do you maybe have like a favorite YouTuber that you watch? Of course, it goes without saying that I do also watch a lot of knitting podcasts on YouTube. But especially, I don't tend to like to follow a lot of different knitting podcasts. And so, you know, if I'm kind of caught up with most of the ones that I'm watching, there's not a lot to watch for them. But anyway, so recommend me some things to watch while I'm knitting. Let me know what you watch while you're knitting. So that's it for the knitting stuff for this week. So if that's all you're here for, thank you for sitting around for this long, and I will see you next week, hopefully. If that's not all you're here for, let's continue with some stuff all about me. You know, personal stuff from this past week. So last time I recorded was on Tuesday, so it's actually not been that long since I last recorded. But I have now wrapped up my second week of work, which definitely went better than the first. My first week was very kind of like stop and start, like I just had a hard time getting anything done. And so the second week has felt much better. I really felt like I kind of have gotten in the groove. I felt like I got a lot done. And I really kind of set myself up well because this next week classes start. And the classes that I'm teaching don't start because, so if you're new here, basically what I do is I deal with the labs that are taught for like the undergraduates in the physics department. So those labs don't start until the second week of class. So this week I will be slowly like getting into like my schedule of setting up things, but it doesn't really get into full force until the second week of classes. But I've kind of done a lot to really like get myself set up well for once things get up to full speed. So yeah, so I spent most of the week at work, like getting that stuff done. I was running through labs that I will actually be teaching, which was good because it made me feel like a physicist again a little bit, like doing experiments and like doing lab work and stuff. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, so that's what I was doing at work for the past week. Other than that, I haven't been doing a lot. I kind of feel a little bit lame because like, you know, I go to work and I work all day and then I get home and I eat dinner and then I want to sit and knit, you know, and I want to knit at night. And so I don't really feel like I have a lot to talk about, but you know, kind of like my finished objects and stuff, that's what I do outside of work. So yeah, that's been that. And I'm trying to think of what else. So something else that I did was I went shoe shopping this past week, which I hate doing. I hate shopping for shoes. I have, partly because I have really awkwardly sized feet. I guess you can kind of see here. So this is what my foot looks like. So this is a pretty long foot. This is it compared to my head. So my foot is about 26 or 26 and a half centimeters long. So I wear a size 9.5 shoe. But you can see I have a really narrow heel. So the majority of my foot is pretty narrow. So I have a hard time finding shoes that fit. So I had a couple of shoes here and I have like this two pairs of boots that I really like, and you know, they work really well and they're nice looking. The problem is, since I've been working, I've been walking 10,000 plus steps a day, because I walk to work and then like during the day like the building that I am in is not the physics building. So typically I'll have to walk at least once from my building over to the physics building and then back and then walk back home. And it's like more than a mile from our apartment to where my office is. So it's a lot of walking. So I've been getting in like at least 10,000 steps a day, every day. And those boots that I have are not really meant for walking that much. And so they've been hurting my feet really bad. So I was like, okay, I need new shoes. So I went out on Thursday night, dragged Wesley out on Thursday night, and we went to DSW, and I wound up, you know, looking for shoes, and I was kind of trying to find something that was, you know, kind of in that more like professional grown-up sort of realm, but there's just not a lot that really fits my foot and was, like cost aside, there just was not a lot there that would really work for me. So I wound up buying a pair of Converse because I love Converse and they've always fit me pretty well because they, again, are very long and narrow. So I bought a pair of those and I've been loving them a lot. So, and it's kind of fun too. I posted a picture on Instagram where I had my Converse on and like I was wearing tights, but like because I'm so tall, I cut the toes out of my tights and then I kind of like roll them up like leggings. Because buying them as tights makes them cheaper than buying them as leggings. So whatever. But then I had a pair of my hand knit socks on that I kind of, tucked the tights into. But then just the very top of the socks poked out of the top of my Converse because they're high tops. So that's kind of really fun, and I kind of really enjoy that. So, but yeah, so I've been loving them. So like yesterday then, I decided to walk to this store here in Richmond that I have been meaning to go to for a while. It's kind of one of those like oddities kind of stores, like they sell like that kind of kitschy sort of stuff that nobody needs, but you're in there and you're like, I want all of it. So I went there and I thought that it was only a mile away. Nope, turns out it's 2 miles away. So, I'm like, but by the time I realized that, I was too committed. I was like, nope, I am doing this. So, but I learned a very important lesson because I was wearing a pair of my hand knit socks, and I learned that hand knit socks, when I'm walking that far on like brick sidewalks, like they're not like nice smooth sidewalks, they're kind of uneven brick sidewalks, not so good for my feet. Like I'm usually not bothered by the fact that like hand knit socks are just a little bit bumpy on the inside. I don't know, it bothered me yesterday. So I kind of learned that lesson that, I can't walk that far all in one go, like 4 miles all in one go wearing hand knit socks, at least not wearing those Converse. So good lesson to learn. And I got to the store and found that they didn't have what I was looking for anyway. So, wah wah. But the nice thing was that I found a coffee and tea shop that we had actually found earlier in the fall, but we got there in kind of a roundabout way, so we actually had no idea how far away it was. Turns out it's not that far away. It's a pretty easy walk. So that was great because like they have all kinds of like coffee and tea accessories, like different like pots and stuff. And they sell like coffee and like coffee beans and tea leaves and stuff. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, so that was my day yesterday. It was just a lot of walking. And now today, like I said, it's snowing. And I don't think I can get over to the window to show you guys without making you seasick and without giving away kind of where I live, which I don't necessarily want to do. But anyway, it looks like there's a little bit of snow piling up on top of cars, and I had hoped to get out to like Target today, but I don't think that's going to happen now because like it's like just at freezing or just above freezing, so like it's really slushy and gross. And like we walked out this morning to go get some coffee from like the donut shop just down the road, and we like our stairs were pretty slick like on our front steps, so I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to be driving today. And not that I'm worried about like me or Wesley not being able to drive in this weather because we're from Minnesota, let's be realistic here, but I'm worried about everyone else. Like people here are bad enough drivers as it is. I don't want to add like snow and slush into the mix, so I might walk up to, I don't know, somewhere else. I wanted to look for a new lipstick today. That was why I wanted to run to Target, because I have almost completed my trifecta of lipsticks that I need. Because I've recently gotten into wearing lipstick, and I kind of have decided that like what I need is I need 3 shades that don't quit. And I found my red, and this is like my dark, like kind of, dark bold color. And now I need like a My Lips But Better shade. And so I might just walk up to like the nearest like drugstore and see if they have what I'm looking for. Because I have found that the Rimmel, the Rimmel liquid lipstick, like that's what I have in my red. Great, like wears all day, does not quit. And so I'm gonna look for a nice kind of like My Lips But Better shade in that. So I think that'll be my plan for today. And then, like I said, well, so tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day, which I'm pretty sure means I have the day off of work. Pretty sure. So nice long weekend, and then classes start on Tuesday. So then it will be just crazy for the next week or so, and then, easing into the spring semester. Wesley will be very happy because he has been going nuts without anything to do. I think I mentioned when I recorded on Tuesday that he went out and bought a violin. Like that's how bored he is. But it's really cool. Like he has always wanted to learn how to play the violin, and I'm super proud of him for being like, I'm going to learn how to do this. And he had his first lesson yesterday, and I guess didn't really learn much other than how to hold it. But he's trying to teach himself how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which is kind of fun. And it's actually close. Like it's pretty good. I think it's not in the right key, but it sounds like Twinkle Twinkle. So there's that. But yeah, so that's been my life lately. Kind of boring, I guess, but it is what it is. I know Vogue Knitting Live was happening this weekend, I think, and so I've been seeing a lot of stuff about that. And like, part of me is kind of sad that like I couldn't jaunt up to New York and do that, but then again, I don't think I would have enjoyed it very much, because there can be too much of a good thing. I had that happen where, I think I mentioned this before, but just in case, when we first moved out here, like the weekend, like the first weekend or the second weekend or something after we moved out here, we went up to Washington, D.C. for a convention for fountain pens, which, like I said before, is my other hobby. So we went up there, and it was like a 3-day weekend or whatever that we were up there. And it was really fun, and it was great because I got to meet a lot of people that like I only knew online. And so that was really great, but like the convention itself was a little bit too much. Like, I love fountain pens and I love writing stuff, but it was a lot. Like, you know, there's only so much time you can spend doing that stuff. And I feel like Vogue Knitting Live would be similar for me, because I'm not interested in taking the classes. And so like in terms of like just like wandering around, I think I would have been pretty bored. And actually I'm doing something to work on that. Like, so I'm going back to this fountain pen convention this next year, this summer. But I'm not going to be there during the day. Like, during the day, I'm going to be out doing like the DC things, and I'll come back at night and hang out with people. But that's kind of how I'm going to manage it. And I feel like that's what I'd have to do if I went to Vogue Knitting Live, is like during the day, I'd have to like when like the vendors and stuff are out, I'd have to be like out doing New York things. And then I'd come back at night to hang out with people and like do that thing. But yeah, for anyone who's there, I hope you had a good time and safe travels coming back, since you'll probably be back by the time this is up. But yeah, so that's that. And I'm going to stop rambling now, because I'm definitely rambling at this point, and maybe go make myself some lunch and then head out into the wild and snowy world out there. So thank you for watching, and yeah, I hope to see you back again next week. Bye!